420. Today, I just, for some reason, it popped in my head that I get the question a lot, how fast do trichomes mature? I get asked a lot how often people should look at the trichomes when they're in the flower stage to determine that harvest. What the fuck is going on? All right, good. Getting that ad revenue in. All right, fantastic. Okay. Now everything should go good, right? All right, so it occurred to me that I get the question a lot, how fast do trichomes mature? How often should you look at them? What are they? What do they do? Where do they come from? Where do they go? Let's just kind of get into it. And we have a Leafly article right here in front of us that we're going to open up called What are Trichomes and Why Do They Exist on Cannabis Plants? Which I feel like is a good place to start when you jump into the topic of trichomes. So it starts off, when it comes to cannabis, there is quite a bit more than what meets the naked eye. If you fancy the flower, at some point in time, you probably asked yourself about those little tiny crystals that always seem to cover the leaves and the buds of your favorite strains. They tend to be shiny, sticky, and always carry the most amazing aromas. Upon looking closer, however, these blankets of frost appear to be the large collections of what are known as trichomes. The actual definition of trichome is fine outgrowths or appendages on plants, algae, lichens, and certain protists, protestis, originating from the Greek word trichoma, meaning growth of hair, which I'm probably pronounced that wrong. It's probably trichoma. Growth of hair. These tiny microscopic mushroom-looking protuberances look like something out of a science fiction novel, but they are actually the very factories that produce the hundreds of known cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids that make our favorite cannabis strains potent, unique, and effective. So a couple things to note there. Terpenes stored in the trichomes, which is going to be important later. Hundreds of cannabinoids. Hundreds. Not like 5, not like 7. Flavonoids, also super important to make a strain what it is. And it's got a nice little picture. And if you guys have ever looked at your plants through one of those scopes that you can get, or taken a really close-up picture with your phone, you can get a really good idea of what's going on the surface of that plant, the whole universe, the whole world that is on top of the surface of your plant. I thought it was super amazing the first time I saw it, and I'm sure a lot of people have had that same experience where it just seems so unreal to be able to see something like that for the first time. I remember my first time looking into a scope, it was that AK-47 I grew, and I thought that stuff was, looking back, it was garbage. But at the time, I thought it was the shit. I thought I had it going. It did have trichomes on it, though. Whew. Oh, shit. I hit my wheel. The production of trichomes can be observed in many species of plants throughout nature, taking various physical forms as well as serving many different purposes. For example, trichomes found on some carnivorous plants aid in helping to catch prey, which, using smells to its advantage, like if something liked a nice fruity smell, it could emit that, attract like a fruit fly or something like that, and obviously be able to take advantage of its seduction towards the fly. So nature is a brutal bitch is basically the moral of the story. In cannabis, trichomes function as a defense mechanism. When the female cannabis plants begin to produce flowers in the wild, and also when the males produce pollen sacs, they often become vulnerable to various insects and animals, as well as non living environmental variables such as potentially harmful UV rays, which is super important for a topic that's been recent in lighting. I'm going to change the camera up a little bit. It's bothering me that it's so far off to the left. But ultraviolet rays are actually something that the plant needs to protect against, which can aid in the production of trichomes, because the trichomes are that protective layer that kind of distribute the radiation of the UV rays that are coming down, therefore causing less damage to the plant, therefore giving your plant a healthy life. But you can use this to your advantage in your lighting if you have an ultraviolet spectrum in your lighting. So that's something that's going to be super important, and I hope that we can really learn to dial in and take advantage of in the upcoming years, especially with being able to partner with Spider Farmer and Viva Mars Hydro. It's going to be really cool to be able to experience the new things that come out in the technology, knowing that UV ray, like radiation, is so important. Trichomes serve as a deterrent for animals because their bitter taste and strong aromas render cannabis flowers unpalatable. At the same time, they also serve a dual function in protecting their plants from damaging winds and even more varieties of fungal growth. And I don't understand how it protects the plants from the wind. If anyone knows about that, please leave that in the chat. I would love to know. But yeah, it can aid in defense for a lot of things. I've seen plants that were super powdery mildew resistant and otherwise like bug resistant and all that good stuff. And I guess a lot of it comes down to the trichomes, that secondary sex characteristic, that defense mechanism. Trichomes exist in many shapes and sizes, but there are three that appear most often on cannabis plants. Bulbous trichomes are the smallest of the bunch, and they appear on the surface of the entire plant. Bulbous trichomes are the small 10 to 15 micrometers, which is tiny enough to be compared to a handful of cells. So basically, they're so tiny that you can't see them unless you have a microscope, because it's just cells, like just a couple of them, not a lot. Capitate sessile trichomes, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong as well. If anyone knows the actual pronunciation, do that fucking dictionary shit where it says how it's pronounced. Are slightly larger and contain both head and a stalk. These trichomes are quite a bit more abundant than their bulbous brethren, but cannot hold a candle to the bountifulness and size of the third trichome variety. So this third trichome variety is looking like that's what we see for the most part. Capitate stalked trichomes range anywhere in between 50 to 100 micrometers wide, meaning they're much larger and can occasionally be seen by the naked eye. Their structure consists of a stalk comprised of epidermal and hydromic give me a second. Goddamn. Hypodermic cells that build up to a basal cell, which attaches to a large gland head. The gland head, held together by a waxy cuticle layer, serves as the epicenter for the cannabinoid and terpenoid synthesis. And we made it through that paragraph without dying, which I think is one of the most amazing things. I gotta fix that camera again because you guys are way too high. And I was tired of my head being so cut off in live streams, and that's why I lowered it in the first place. But that's neither here nor there. All three types of trichomes produce cannabinoids, although it is the third type that will appear in abundance in and around the calyxes of budding flowers, producing the highest concentration of essential oils due to their size. So that third type, if we can narrow down and target that one's growth, maybe we'll be able to figure something out for that if there's something specific that triggers its production, which trichome production and life cycle we get into here. So maybe we're going to learn a little bit more about how fast do they mature, when are we going to be looking at actually doing things with it rather than just observing. So cannabinoid synthesis within the trichome begins as cannabis plants move into their bloom phase as they begin to produce flowers. Trichomes form along the outer surface of the above ground plant vegetation and begin to transport vacuoles and plastids. So what causes them to look milky and then amber? I'm assuming that is the saturation or simply maturity of the trichome itself, but I think we're going to be getting into that at some point here. Let me skim this and see if I can find an answer for you right quick. Those cannabis plants on which resides, making it incredibly valuable for farmers to monitor. The life of the trichome can be along a and the apex represents the point of which maturing exceeds. Okay, here we go. The life of a trichome can be analogus, alonguous, to a parabola, where the apex represents the point at which maturation exceeds and degradation begins. So basically, when it goes from milky to amber, that is basically the tipping point of when it stops being mature and then starts fucking dying. So basically, once let's just fucking throw a random age out there. Basically, once we turn 70 and then we start deteriorating in our health, that's pretty much what the trichome is going for. For the most part, trichomes will display maturation on this parabola by changing the I feel like these words should be really fucking easy, but I'm just so tired and high. Opacity from clear translucent state to cloudy white, and then later on an amber hue. So it's literally just going through its stage, and basically based on the age of that trichome and the maturity of that individual trichome, it will then start to degrade, simply because it's been around so long. These things all have a life cycle. Plants have a maximum life cycle even if you take clones from them. So everything just has to come to an end at some point. And hey, if you're getting value out of this live stream, go ahead and hit a like. I know I'm learning a couple of things so far, and this is actually really fun to talk about. The transition of color within a trichome head represents its peak ripeness, and farmers typically use this as a sign to harvest, as it's a point in when trichome has reached full maturation and will begin to degrade from the point forward. It is important to understand that not all strains of cannabis are the same, and some trichomes will display maturation differently. Nevertheless, trichome coloration remains the standard for determining a harvest time for most strains. Whether alive on a vine or harvested, the trichomes are incredibly vo- volatile and at risk for destruction. And whenever you touch a trichome and you feel that stickiness, all that stickiness on your hand is just destroyed trichomes. And if you're looking to maximize how many trichomes remain on your plant, there are things you can do to avoid getting as many as you would, such as using rubber gloves. If you use nylon gloves, then you won't basically be transferring oils from your finger onto the bud to then destroy more, and also it probably lowers the impact of you actually touching the bud, but I could be wrong. I have no real idea when it comes to that kind of stuff because I never really cared too much. I'm just kind of take the L's where they happen. Destruction or degradation at the hands of many catalysts, including but not limited to physical contact, heat, light, oxygen, and time. So you're basically just going to start degrading at some point anyway, no matter what, because time is a factor. And physical contact you can minimize. Heat, of course, you can regulate. Light you can avoid. And oxygen you can avoid pretty easily. But that time is going to destroy everything at some point. And I know that you can cure it and then it'll be good indefinitely, but how long is indefinitely really? That just means it's undefined. But hopefully one day we'll have an answer. What's the shelf life to weed? Not only due to the trichomes themselves risk damage when exposed to these elements, but the essential oils within them risk degradation. There are ways to dramatically slow degradation in trichomes by carefully handling cannabis flowers both during propagation and post-harvest by limiting physical contact and aggregation to the flowers themselves. Trichomes may be preserved on the plant for longer periods of time. Proper trimming, drying, and curing techniques can help keep trichomes viable for longer, which will in turn preserve the cannabinoids and terpenoids contained within. So I thought originally that trichomes and terpenoids and flavonoids were two completely different things. But from what it's saying here, the trichomes actually hold the flavonoids within them. I thought that it was basically an oil that the plant secreted rather than held within itself in some sort of form. But again, I'm kind of dumb, so whatever. Those looking to extend the shelf life of the trichomes beyond that of the plants they came from often. Wow. No, I read that right. Of the plants they came from often resort to extraction techniques. The extraction in this context may be defined as a process of either mechanically or chemically removing trichomes from the plant itself. There are a myriad of methods and techniques for extracting trichomes from the plant and material, and there are so many different types of concentrate that we're making these days. It's absolutely insane. I've given up trying to keep up until I have more time, basically. These methods range from medicinal dry sifting practices that produce keef, which I do a lot. I do a lot of the sifting to get a lot of keef. It's just the easiest concentrate for me to create at the moment. I don't really have the technology to be doing a lot of pressing or getting oils or anything like that. So getting keef and being able to smoke that in my joints and in my bongs is very nice. And anyone who is coming up on a harvest, good luck with that grower's bonus, because I think the keef you get at the end is really the grower's bonus, and then just having a huge yield just kind of comes with the whole process. territory is the word I was trying to think of. To chemical extractions that utilize light hydrocarbons like butane or propane to create waxy, full melt hash oils. If subjected to the right conditions, trichomes that have been separated or recollected by use of these methods can be stored indefinitely. That is pretty awesome. I do love my concentrates over here. Been doing a lot of dabs lately. Do deserve a round of applause. Cannabis plant from the potential harms of the world, but also providing one of a kind manufacturing facility for hundreds of known medicinally and therapeutically beneficial compounds exclusive to this amazing plant experience. Cannabis farmers are no stranger to growing with the intention of preserving trichomes with proper care and dedication. Farming trichomes is and will remain the future of uncovering the vast mysteries of the medicinal and therapeutic qualities of cannabis. So just a wonderful sign off there. So man, I thought that was a lot different. So the reason we're doing a whole breeding for higher THC is so we get the higher high. That is a common belief, but there's also the entourage effect with the terpenes that we need to pay attention to. And I thought the reason we needed to stop doing that was so we had less trichomes, but the reason we need to do it or the reason we need to do it differently is because we need to breed for higher terpene value, just to balance stuff out, maybe a higher CBD value in a lot of strains, just to balance out the market a little bit. And I'm not saying we should do all of the same thing for everything. I'm just saying there needs to be a higher diversity of things that are available out there rather. And I think that creating strains that have high terpene value, that could be potentially up to crazy numbers like 15-12% of terpenes and flavonoids. And then we have the CBD, CBN, CBG, THC, all that good stuff in there as well. I think we can make some plants that are absolutely beautiful and actually come with an entire package rather than something we have been fiending for since the 60s or 70s. But I think I learned quite a few things tonight, man. It is 4 a.m. It's absolutely too late for me to be awake right now. But hey, man, what do you guys think? Did you learn anything in this trichome article? I'm sorry, I'm not doing a full hour like I usually do. Very tired, and I actually have a dentist appointment tomorrow, so wish me luck with all of that good stuff. I'm very nervous about it. But until next time, hey man, I will see you guys next time. Thank you all for joining. Shout out to Carlos Fandango. Carlos Fandango. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your last name, man. Appreciate you chatting. Appreciate you asking the question, getting us through that article faster. See you guys later. Thank you. And good night.